defensive rookie of the year. We got a top 5 defense still, and all we were missing was a quarterback. So now you bring in that quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and the sky's the limit. It just feels good to be a Jets fan right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at me. Benchmark. They're speaking the facts that you wanna hear. They rep a jersey, the vision is clear. Diamonds glisten like a chandelier. You know what I'm here for, like Marshawn Lynch. At clutch time, we do not flinch. Real brothers, we do not switch. Hit home runs with the right pitch. Who run the city? What to do when they hating on you? I feel like Kobe 2010. I ain't taking an L, all I need is a win. Business is business, you know how they go. You playing the seats, now it's time to grow. Tune in now, gotta be in the know. Showtime, bitch, my about to blow.
I ain't seen from now. Bowser was really trying to tell y'all.
Benchmark Podcast. What's up, bro?
Yeah, welcome back. Welcome back to another episode of the Bench Mob ENT Podcast. How y'all fellas doing tonight?
Man, I'm good, bro. I'm good. A lot of stuff to talk about, I feel like. May not be enough space for one show.
It's a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm not going to hold y'all. Those that are watching on YouTube, shout out to y'all. Make sure to subscribe, share. But the last couple weeks, the content, we just was putting out content for y'all. It was hard doing these shows the last couple weeks. It was, outside of the NBA playoffs, it was, woo! It was tough. But now we got the drive. We got the NBA playoffs in full swing. Oh, we got some stuff for the next couple of months, baby. Lamar's back. Let me know where y'all want to start. We could start with Lamar coming back. We could start with that first round of the draft. We could start with the Celtics finally closing out the Hawks. And of course, we are the New York Knicks. We said it on the episode last week, Knicks in 5. Knicks in 5, baby. Knicks tape. Where y'all start?
Greg was like, I don't know about Knicks in 5, but I think they're gonna win.
I said Knicks in like 7 or 6. 7 or 6. As I said, I thought the Cavs had more fight in them than that. So I was wrong. They were scared. They couldn't live up to the moment. And they let Mitchell Robinson dominate them all series.
Yeah.
So that's really what happened. Mitchell Robinson dominated them all series. And Jared Allen shrunk in a big moment. That was where they lost the series, in my opinion. Plus, when you have two guards, they're like 6 feet tall, and RJ Barrett can just pick on switches all day and get downhill. Good luck. And your best defender is Isaac Okoro, who's probably 6'6". He's not a real 6'8", so just an advantage all around to the Knicks. I underestimated all those things. So I was wrong. But I mean, I did think the Knicks could win the series. I do think the Knicks get to the conference finals. It's gonna be tough. Hey, you can talk about the Heat series, but I'll let you bask in your glory for a minute. Go ahead, talk about your Cavs series. I mean, I feel like, there's more to it than just what I said, for sure. But,
Hey, before Miles goes, to your point, Jared Allen come out and saying that the lights were brighter than expected says everything what happened that season. Mitchell Robinson was the best player in that series, best big man in that series. And nobody respectfully expected that going into that series. He dominated both of their two big men. I'm gonna let Miles go, but they gotta trade one of them.
Yeah. I mean, that series was a straight up domination. Like I said at the beginning, they got to take one in Cleveland. They took game 1. Game 2, they showed a little bit of fight. Cleveland did. And they were all excited, flicking it up in the locker room. I'm like, okay, well, you guys split at home, which is your best place to play. You supposedly a great home team. So let's see what happens at the Garden. We smoked them at the Garden. Like we dominated them, like we should. And like Brunson got it going. Even though Randall struggled a couple times in the series, RJ's the one who stepped up. Even after we were talking about games 1 and 2 when RJ, he struggled and people are talking about maybe he plays a little less than he has because he's not shooting it well. He's kind of a minus on the court. And what did he do once he came back to the Garden? He started getting downhill. He's driving to the cup. There were so many moments in these games where I'm like, this is why this team can make a deep run. Like they're deep. We got Hart, grabbing 12 boards in a game clinching or a series clinching game. You got Mitchell Robinson, who he made it impossible for them to do anything. Like offensively, we're grabbing boards nonstop. We're getting second, third, fourth chances every time we're down. And that's demoralizing for the Cavs. Like you can see it on Donovan Mitchell's face sometimes, and a couple times in this series that like you see Mitchell Robinson grab a board and pass it back out, and it's like, damn, we played good defense on that play, but they got another chance and they hit a three. So I think we just wore them down. Like the Knicks are a lot deeper than the Cavs, so that was something that was an underrated aspect in this series because looking at that Cavs bench, they had to desperately go to Danny Green in Game 3 because I mean Isaac Okoro couldn't find his shot until Game 5. So there's not much to be said about Cleveland. I think they've got to do some soul searching in this offseason, whether that's getting rid of Bickerstaff because there were a couple coaches that, you know, I would pick up instead of Bickerstaff. I think his adjustments were awful in this series, and I think Tibbs deserves a lot of credit because he had a couple games where we could have honestly lost it, where we're winning most of the game, and it comes down the stretch, and you got Randall struggling, but he leaned on Obi a couple times. Obi came up big in this series, and that's what I kind of expected. If Randall goes down, Obi's good enough. I think he's been ready to show what he can do, but there's just no room for him kind of on this team with Randall playing 35 minutes a game at the same position. So we'll see. It feels good to have home court advantage in a round of the playoffs coming up. Like the Garden on Sunday is going to be rocking.
We're gonna stay with the Knicks, looking to that next series, Knicks Heat. Now, before we even talk about our predictions in that series and what we see what's happening, Jimmy Hemi Butler. My gosh, I know playoff Jimmy is a serious thing, but I personally underestimated that he was going to be able to carry them 4 games. No Tyler Hero, no Victor Oladipo. Kevin Love is a shell of himself. Gabe Vincent's the second best player, and Kyle Lowry might show up. He's going to give you 15 charges, but no buckets. Shout out to Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler's going to be a Hall of Fame player at the end when it's all said and done. I don't think he needs a ring for him to be a Hall of Fame player. What he's done in the biggest moments, the playoffs, is literally what? Jordan, LeBron, Kobe, those type of numbers. And y'all tell me, in the biggest moments, and you need a muscle-in game, he got to be at the top of the list of players that you want right now. If I'm in a game 7, I'm in a crucial game 5, it's tied up 2-2, give me Jimmy Butler every single day of the week. I don't know if he could do this again, though, with the Knicks. How y'all see this series going?
I think he could.
Yeah.
I think he could, but it all depends on what Tibbs draws up as like the scheme to defend him. Like it worked.
Oh, he's gonna get his bucket. He gonna get his buckets. I'm saying like to win the series, y'all too deep, I think.
I agree. Tyler Hero was a big loss for them, and Max Strus is solid, but he's not Tyler Hero.
Played well though.
He played well. But those guys are going to have to defend. And I know during the season they were doing a lot of putting Gabe Vincent on RJ, but they're going to have to scrap that because it didn't work. And we saw in this past series, like you put a small guard on RJ, and he's just going to take you to the cup. And I think that they should double Jimmy off those screens and try to force someone else to make a play. Like, if you're gonna let somebody beat you, is Max Strus gonna drop 40 for you to win? Make Bam make some plays. Bam's great. Like he looked great in that last game where he was making plays, passing. But that's who you want to kind of beat you. Because I like the matchup of Mitchell Robinson or Randall on Bam, honestly, because I think you put a little length on him, and he hasn't shown that he's aggressive enough to overcome that.
Look, I think I look at the series in a couple of ways. The Knicks could win. The Knicks could win it, and I don't know that they should be favored, but they have the home court advantage, so they should be favored. I think the home court advantage gives them the favor, even though I think Miami, being as a veteran team that's been there before, been to a finals before, with this core group, it gives them a good edge to be able to not get scared in the moment. It's almost not going to be too big for them like it was for Cleveland. They're not a young team, so I don't really worry about that as much with them. They have the best player in the series. Jimmy, the best player in the series. Jimmy, the best player in the playoffs outside of Devin Booker. And then they have the better coach. They have the better coach, and that matters. That matters. So this series is gonna look. This series should be what I thought the Cavs series was going to be. I think there will be a 6-7 game, 7-game hopefully series just for the viewership. I mean, I'm sure Knicks fans want over in 5 or 4, but I mean, realistically, I think that you're looking at a series of probably 6 or 7 games. It's gonna be a dogfight. I mean, you can double Jimmy for sure. That's a viable plan. I'm not saying it's not, but I think the loss of Julius Randle, if he's not going to play or if he's going to be hobbled, is going to hurt you in the series where you have to deal with Bam. That matters. Like that matters. That's tough. And if they want a single cover, Jimmy does the points in the series. They have bodies, McBride and Grimes and them guys, right? And who else? Hart, right? You could do that. But he's a hard single cover. Right now, it's hard to single cover that guy. Like it is. So if they double him, it would make sense. This is a series I feel like the Knicks should win, just because how deep they are. But I think the coaching edge is going to show itself at certain points in the series. And I think Jimmy is crazy right now, man. Jimmy's on 2020 type stuff. That's what he was on in the playoffs in 2020. So it really looks very similar there. So it's hard to pick. I mean, the home court advantage is nice for the Knicks, and I think RJ has to play well. Goes without saying he has to. And I know people say he's well against the Heat. That's what they say. And you're right, yeah, okay. We'll see. Let's throw some bigger bodies at him. We'll see how it goes. I don't think Jalen Brunson.
I got Knicks in 6, and I think to your point, coaching is going to matter in this. Obviously, the better coach is Spoelstra, but I think the Knicks will do a better job because speaking of coaching, Bud, I don't know. I can't see us starting off in September, October, a new season, and he has a job as the Bucks head coach. I'm going to throw this stat out here, and we could talk about the Bucks and their collapse. And yes, Giannis, I don't care what you say. I know you was in your feelings. You was upset. There's the person act that they ain't clashing last year. It was a failure. Point blank, period. That's what happens in sports. That's what happens in life. And failure is a part of the process to become great. You can't negate that. And Kobe and MJ would tell you the same thing. But back to Bud. One stat, and y'all can take it over. In that series where Jimmy Butler had a 56-point game, closed out the series with a 40-plus point game. They only double teamed Jimmy Butler 7 times in the whole series. That's coaching. Yeah. And Giannis threw him under the bus too. Giannis, why didn't you guard him? Well, that was a coaching decision. Twofold. Yes, Bud, you're terrible. You should have put Giannis on him. Secondly, Giannis, that's sweet. Because Spoelstra was going to draw the play up for somebody else besides Jimmy. And Jimmy told him, no, I'm going to be that guy. Give it to me. So if you spoke up, Bud would have listened, or he would have got fired for not listening to you. So they got some soul searching to do too in the offseason. 13 missed free throws. Giannis, look in the mirror, baby.
His flaws showed in this series. The flaws of what I always said about him and why I've always had a hard time, getting on the Giannis is the best player in the world train, even though he has been at points. I've had a hard time getting on that train just because there's just clear deficiencies in this game. Free throw shooting, perimeter defense. I don't think he's a great perimeter defender. I really don't. I think he's long. I think there's a lot of guys who are tall and long, but there's a difference between being tall and long and being someone who can slide their feet and stay with guys that are shiftier and things like that. So I think Jimmy would have had his way with him. I really believe that if he had guarded him. That's my opinion. I think that's why he didn't ask for that matchup. I think he's better in help. He's better coming over and blocking shots. That's always been his thing. It's why he's won Defensive Player of the Year on some Gobert type stuff. Like it's been like that. And that's not a knock on him. Usually not your God-given gifts, but I have a hard time trashing Giannis completely. He got his back blown out in the series and everything like that. So I understand, when something like that happens and you get your back blown out in the series, it's hard to hold it against you. You miss some games, so it's all right. I mean, look, is it a valid excuse? No. In all seriousness, I mean, I think they had won the game that he didn't play, and then they lost every game he did play. Is how it worked out. So
Yeah.
right. So hard to look. It's a stain. It's a stain, and it's a stain. But he won a championship already. There's some complacency. I think when you win one, especially from Milwaukee, who doesn't normally win them. So I think that's what you saw with that quote. I think that's what you saw. I think when he's talking about there's no failure and all that stuff, it's because he feels like he's accomplished everything he can out of life already, coming from Greece, sharing a one shoe with his brothers, even though they all got two legs, he's sharing one shoe with them. You feel like you've accomplished everything there is in life already. So I understand. I get it. Like I look at it from his point of view. I understand that. It's tough. But it's true. He did accomplish a lot. So I ain't knocking him. It's okay.
Hey, Greg said his wife was really riding him like a buck. But go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, I mean, you could say it was a failure. I feel like it was more of a disappointment because I feel like this team did have some expectations, and it kind of got derailed by Giannis getting injured the way he did. And I mean, he really missed 3 games. That first game, he got hurt in the first quarter and tried to tough it out, and it just didn't work. And that's kind of tough. You're banking on your MVP to be out there, and you don't really have a guy to replace him on that team. So kudos to them. They came back and won game 2, but they got game 3, and he came back and he played well in game 5, or game 4, I mean. But I think it's just more disappointing because number 1 in the East, they did all this to get home court throughout the playoffs, and they couldn't protect home court. Just like Cleveland, you lost 2 of 3 at home. Like you're not going to win many series if you're not protecting home court. So,
Yep.
but they're not out of it. They're not done moving forward. But a big component that's coming up is his looming free agency in 2 years, where he could honestly play out his contract and play the the field and see what's out there. Because I mean, it was cool. They won a championship a couple years ago. Great. But I don't see them ever getting to a championship again.
Okay. Miles, I was going to say, they won a championship a couple years ago, but they were lucky to win it. They shouldn't have won a championship like a couple years ago. They just escaped Brooklyn.
All right, Tom Brady shouldn't have won a Super Bowl.
No, I'm just saying.
Seahawks did that. You could do that
it's a
for
valid
everybody.
point. It's a valid point for this conversation because if you're talking about them winning a championship a couple years ago, and you're talking about the viability of the team moving forward, they probably realized in that room when they talk about that team moving forward, what they're going to do, that they were lucky to win in 2020? They were lucky to win that. They were lucky. Was it 2020? I think it might have been
21.
2021. Was that what it was? 21. Oh, well, yeah, they were lucky to win in 2021. And I think they realized they have to get him a different running mate than Chris Middleton, someone a bit more respectable. And I don't know how a team like Milwaukee goes about doing that. I don't know what draft capital they have to do that. Are they going to try to trade for Dame when Dame comes available this summer? I don't know. Is that where Dame wants to go? I can see him. I don't know, right? Like Milwaukee, it's tough. So it's going to be really hard for them to get exponentially better. That's the thing I don't understand about that team. Where do you go from here? Like, how do you get better? It's tough. Like
to your point too, is like, I know Giannis is out, but everybody in the world did not expect them to actually still lose the series. Like, all right, Giannis is out. They decided to keep him out, I think, 1 too many games, not respecting the Heat, thinking that they should still win because they were the better team and the Heat were decimated. So again, coaching, Again, you got to look at the rest of the roster.
Right.
And I'm going to hold Giannis to some level of degree too, because that last game, the Giannis that everybody loves, and he had 50 in a closeout game. I'm going to go to Chick-fil-A and get 50 nuggets. When it was time to do it again, he got the ball. Joker had Butterfingers, almost threw it out of bounds. Chris Middleton had to save it. Why? Because he knew he had to go to that free throw line. He didn't want to go to. He ain't want that smoke. Giannis, to me, you doing that for me, like the level of how great he is has to be dropped a notch. Great players don't do that. And you're telling me this wasn't a LeBron situation where he made the right play. Grayson Allen ends up with the ball and y'all don't get a shot at all? Come on, Giannis. For all those that say Giannis is the best player in the league right now, stop. So Giannis needs to get back in that same hunger. I don't know if you need to go live in a hut for the summer or do something like that, but this man at some point has to actually get a jump shot. At some point, he has to be able to knock down free throws. This is ridiculous. 13 missed free throws. Y'all lose the game by 1 point, 2 points. That's your fault. 13 missed free throws. It's really getting old. You're not Shaq either. Like, what's wrong with you?
Gotta get some skill. Gotta get some skill. I think that's the bottom line. It's time for him to become more of a basketball player than a great athlete who can dribble a baskelball.
To your point, the injury happened because there was no skill. Him and John Morant.
Where's a floater? Where's a midi? Where's a, just because you're 7 feet tall and you're a freak athlete doesn't mean you don't need those things. You do need them. That's how you, and same with John Morant, who's a fool, right? It's the same kind of thing. So it's the same conversation. You gotta continue to add skill to avoid injuries. He got injured, it was his fault. And they lost the series and it was his fault. He didn't make free throws. So you gotta get better.
Yeah. It's like him and John Morant stand at the top of like a 50-step walkway and decide to jump off from the top and hope to land on 2 feet. That's exactly what they be doing. Making no sense. And Josh still doing it. Last game, they won, but Josh, you was going to dunk on LeBron? Really? Really?
He almost
and then he lands on the hand that he injured. Really, Ja? Really? That was the best decision right there.
I mean, he's not the smart.
LeBron at 52 years old tried to take a charge because he knows your body. You're going to still try to do that. At 52, he tried to take a charge.
John Morant reminds me a lot of Russell Westbrook in a lot of ways. And I mean, and I'm not talking about it in all the good ways. I'm talking about like the lack of awareness. There's a lack of awareness with the way that they played both in their prime. Because Russell Westbrook was crazy. Okay. He was on some of that stuff too. He had a mid-range pull-up that was a good shot, but he would go to the basket with reckless abandon. And he was just very durable and he was very fortunate to not get hurt. He was built different. Great athlete, all-time great athlete, but Ja has that recklessness to him too. And they're very similar in that way.
Yeah. He's going to have to check out Russ' diet. They say Russ be eating a salad with no salad dressing.
Wow. I can see it.
Man, they said during the season that you're going to be eating like full-on spinach salad, iceberg lettuce mixed with tomatoes, cucumbers, all of that with no dressing.
I can see it.
Weird.
That's raw.
Weird.
That's raw.
Disgusting. I'm with the Bron diet. Give me some protein, nigga. Like no dressing.
Bron 1-1.
That's it. Yeah, 1-1 for sure. That's it for NBA playoffs. We got some other matchups, and we could touch on it next week to see what happens. Lakers. Hopefully they close it out, but I don't feel like talking about them bums. Unless y'all want to talk about that. I don't feel like talking about.
They'll close it out. Lakers gonna close it out on Friday night. They'll close out tomorrow night.
Hey, they better. Looking like Golden State about to close it out too. And we could talk about it later, but it's just like how Lakers playing. They're not beating Golden State. And then if Golden State wins, we're looking at again, possibly Golden State going to the final. But that's a whole other discussion. You, Miles, transferring to football. Aaron Rodgers is finally here, baby. Aaron Rodgers is finally here, and y'all barely gave anything up to get a Rod. How are you feeling about the trade now that it's actually finally done. He's here. He's in the building. He's already doing 17 interviews, more than he's ever done with Green Bay. How are you feeling about A-Rod in the building?
It's just funny because if this had happened, like you wake up to the news or you're up at like 12 a.m., you get a notification that, oh, Aaron Rodgers has been traded to the Jets, I'd be jumping, throwing stuff all over the place. But like this has been just going for 3 months now, where it's just like it's exhausting. And I was just like, just please get this done, whatever it takes, just do it. Like the pick swap, cool. If that's what it took to get it over the edge, fine. But now that he's here, now we can start this Super Bowl run, because that's what we're thinking about. That's all we're thinking about with Aaron Rodgers as the quarterback. Because honestly, I think last year was kind of a blip on the radar. I think he was he was dealing with receivers and kind of a young team that's they're going in two different directions. Like the Packers, the way they're set up, they're here, and Aaron Rodgers is still trying to go up. Like he still views it as like a Super Bowl window for him. But the Packers, they were trying to move on. They were trying to move on 3 years ago when they drafted Jordan Love. But you know, Rodgers was petty enough to win two MVPs. So that kind of threw a wrench in things. Tough to trade a guy who wins two MVPs when he's playing that well. So I think now he's hungry again. He looks like he's, back focused and committed to what it takes to win and committed to the Jets as an organization. And this is not a one and done. Like he's going to be here 2, maybe 3 years, I think. And
Better be.
I mean, he's not. He already said he's not. He doesn't see this as like a one and done ordeal. So I'll take him for that word if it's worth anything. Aaron Rodgers could retire tomorrow, and then
Like he's like Kyrie, yeah. So you don't know.
But I think we're getting that MVP Rodgers this year, and I think the weapons are there. Like we're getting Brees back. He'll be back week 1. We got Garrett Wilson, who is, I don't want to say he's Devontae Adams, but he's got similar capabilities to Devontae Adams, maybe even a little faster than him. And I think the wall is built. Like I think they didn't draft well. Teams jumped ahead of us to take a tackle, which kind of threw a wrench in our draft plans. But I think
Patriots did that on purpose.
Oh yeah. I don't care. They're the bottom of the conference anyway. So whatever. They got to deal with Mac Jones for 16 weeks. Fine. That's fine with me. But like, it just feels good to be a Jets fan right now. Like even last year felt good, regardless of what happened at the end of the year when we lost like 5 in a row, 6 in a row to finish off the year. That was an optimistic season because you've got so much young talent. You've got the offensive rookie of the year. You got the defensive rookie of the year. We got a top 5 defense still. And all we were missing was a quarterback. So now you bring in that quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and the sky's the limit. Like I think I'm ready. I know the tickets are going to be out of this world, but I mean that comes with greatness, right?
Well, they are a must see. So I'll give you that. They're must see. I think they'll get a bunch of primetime TV slots and all that. I'll be watching the Jets games more carefully now. I think it'll be worth watching, and we'll see where they can go with this thing. We'll see. I mean, last year the way he played, he was iffy. And if whatever the reason may be, whether it was because he was on some kind of new narcotic that's only available to white Republicans, I don't know. Maybe that's what it was, or he didn't show up to OTAs was a lot of what we heard, and that was the noise that he just didn't get accustomed to his receivers, and that's part of the problem. Hopefully, and obviously he's looking to change that habit this year. He's looking to take it more serious. He's already working out, so hopefully he can build some rapport with those guys, and it can look good the way it's supposed to look. But I'm interested. I'm really interested to watch this. I really am. I think Aaron Rodgers is one of the most interesting players in football right now because of all the other stuff with him. It's not about the football play. It's about the other stuff. It's about what's going on in his head, and then mix it up with New York. Obviously it's not that he can't handle New York, but when you're struggling, it's loud. I don't think he really realizes how loud it'll be if he doesn't have a good game. It's going to be really loud. If he throws an incompletion in OTAs, everyone gonna be on his ass. That's what it is, right? That's New York. Daniel Jones was the worst quarterback in the league last year on OTAs. Remember? So I think he's in for a big. I think he knows, but I don't think he knows what it feels like. So it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to it. But he's great. They should easily make the playoffs. They should easily end their drought, and they should make some noise. We'll see what happens. Football's weird though, and we don't know how this all works out. It's just tough to predict. But and I'm talking about when you predict playoff matchups and who's going to win and who's going to win championships. It's ridiculously hard to do that, but they should get there. They should get there. He better get there. That's what it is. Like he better get there, and I think he will.
Yeah, and specifically, especially for the Jets, and literally every team in the AFC, we go and pump the brakes on making any predictions, even with the draft. Like some teams are doing good with the draft, that's great. But that quarterback gauntlet in the AFC, the schedule gets released next month. We will have a podcast where we will talk about looking at the schedule. We did it every year. And some years we've been right, and some years we haven't. We're going to do it, and we'll talk about it then. The Jets look good. Of course, it's a great time to be a Jets fan. Aaron Rodgers is finally here, finally in the building. He actually seems like he wants to be here. Now, how long that lasts, we don't know how long the honeymoon lasts. We never know with A-Rod. He might do ayahuasca and have a different feeling. I don't know. He was talking to Brandon Marshall. That might change everything too. So we'll see what happens. Another quarterback that is back in the building, Lamar Jackson, now the highest paid player, which I don't think lasts long because Joe Burrow still got to get paid, and Justin Herbert.
They're gonna pay Joe Burrow. They're gonna pay Joe Burrow in Bitcoin though, because they're broke. So that's coming.
So Joe, I'm sure Joe's gonna wait till Justin gets paid and then he'll do his contract because there's no way Justin Herbert should be getting paid more than Joe Burrow. That's a whole nother discussion. Lamar Jackson, his contract, 5-year, $260 million, $185 million guaranteed, 52 per year. What y'all think about the contract and what y'all think about for the Ravens now having Lamar solidified back there for 5 years? He back on doing videos for the page, and we're gonna be throwing the flock up. That was whack, but what y'all think about the contract?
I mean, I feel like all roads led back to Baltimore in the end. Like, it didn't feel like it was gonna be that difficult to kind of try to make things work. Like, I don't think he really wanted to leave Baltimore in the end run, but it always comes down to money. And like when people acting funny with your money, that's when you got to let them know, like, I don't need this. I don't need you. You need me. Like, I'm the one putting people in their seats. All you see in Baltimore is number 8 jersey. You're not going to see who's the running back, J.K. Dobbins jerseys. What? I'm not buying a running back's jersey in this climate. Not even Saquon. I'm not buying that stuff. Lamar, he's a special talent. I think once that Jalen Hurts deal went down, that kind of sent or made like a benchmark for where the negotiations start. Like, that's the bar minimum that I would take, but I need more than that. So he's making like $1 million more per year than Jalen Hurts, which he deserves it. Like MVP, one of the youngest MVPs in NFL history. Hopefully he can get over the hump in the playoffs, but that comes with weapons. And they've made a consistent effort this year to make his job easier. Like, you have Odell now, you've got Zay Flowers, they just drafted tonight. You've got Rashad Bateman coming back. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Because that's a great trio right there to go along with Mark Andrews, your all-pro tight end. So now we're cooking with gas. And then you got Todd Monken. who's a very good offensive coordinator, and he's going to change things up so it's not so run oriented. I think things are looking up for Lamar in Baltimore. So this was the biggest hurdle. I don't think they wanted to go into the season, starting their other Pro Bowl quarterback, but if they had to, they were going to. But trust trust the process.
The deal was good. The deal was a great deal. It's exactly what he deserves. He's a great player. You deserve the money. It's not about how much money you get. It's about how you structure the contract. That's what they did with Jalen Hurts, giving him like $6 million this year or for this season, right? It's about how you structure it. And so, we'll see how it affects their flexibility moving forward. I don't know why it took till year 5 of having Lamar to get some wide receivers. I don't understand why it took so long to start taking that part seriously. Bateman obviously tried the year before, but I mean, just a lack of effort. But now they're receiving core serious, so we'll see what he can do. I think he has less excuses now. I think he has to make something happen with his roster. You can't point at the fact that he has a lack of weapons now if he goes into the playoffs and doesn't play well. So that's a big deal. I think there's a little pressure on him with that money, and I think things can turn fast. So especially being a black quarterback, things can turn fast on you. So I hope he's very successful with that receiving core, because if not, you're gonna start hearing a lot of noise and whispers about him potentially being, bought out of his contract, them trying to get a new quarterback. They were playing hardball with him to begin with. So we'll see what happens, but he's obviously very talented. I think he'll do great with the receivers they have, and it was a fair deal. They've taken it seriously to build around him, and they'll be good moving forward. I think it's just that simple. Plus, I never saw a world where he was going to leave them anyways. I never saw a world where he was leaving. I didn't think it was going to happen. I was very skeptical of it. Football's rules are made so that way the owners and the GMs are in complete control of these things. It's why Saquon Barkley can be as mad as he wants, but he ain't going nowhere, because that's the CBA they signed. So it is what it is. I think, teams have all the leverage. I know I'd heard otherwise from guys like, people like Bomani Jones saying Lamar had all the leverage. I just didn't see it, to be quite honest with you. With the transition tag too, that's crazy. Like, so you have to pay me 2 first-round picks for the guy, for the right to sign the guy, for the right to pay him. So you have to give up additional capital. Why would any team do that? So it just creates all this leverage for the team. And I just never thought that a guy like Lamar was going to get up out of there. I didn't think it was going to happen. But the CBA they signed, they're a bunch of idiots. What's wrong with them? They seriously, ridiculous. You have no, there's never going to be any player movement in the NFL like that. Like it's never going to be anything real. The Packers only traded Aaron Rodgers because they wanted to get rid of him, because they were sick and tired of his crap. If they wanted him, he would be a Packer. You know what I mean? Like, they got him out of there. That's the reality of it. Everyone's talking, you know what I mean? Like, guys don't just leave. If you're a free agent in the NFL, that means you're not that good of a player. It means you're okay. Like, we can get another one of you. Seriously, like that's really what it means. I think football is a crazy sport in that sense. Like, these guys have no power, no freedom at all. It's crazy. And they sign that CBA every time. It's like, you would think guys who run their players union and all have CTE or something. It's nuts.
They very well might be, but CTE don't matter because they keep signing up to play the football anyway.
Think about this. The transition tag, isn't the transition tag the crazy thing you ever heard of? I didn't even know that existed until this year, and I was like, "What?" And then I looked and I heard about what it was, and I'm like, "Oh, so I got to give you 2 first rounders, and I got to come out of pocket and pay this new contract." So basically, it's a way you guarantee you're never going to lose the guy. You're never going to lose him. That's crazy. You know how valuable a first round pick in football is? Wow.
Exactly. Hey, and you speaking of the CBA, I didn't know about that either, because I didn't go into depth of what was changed in the NFL CBA. But that next week episode, if we have time, the NBA CBA, it's a lot of stuff in there. Now that they finally finalized this, a lot of stuff in there. And there's one thing in there that I know Greg would have approved of, and it would have been great to have this past season. It's now, if players try to request a public trade, it's like $150,000 fine. $150,000 fine.
Stop these guys. I mean, I guess I appreciate the slap on the wrist, Nah, man. They need a steeper penalty, man. There should be a weight clause in there too. That way, a guy like James Harden could lose significant dollars because I don't like how he blew up like a balloon. As he's decided he wants to stop taking it seriously. And by the way, we're not talking about basketball, but James Harden is washed. James Harden is washed. I just want people to just know what you're looking at. Tyrese Maxey is by far better than him. He is washed. And him leaving, going to Houston, Philly will not put up a fight. Philly will not put up a fight. Daryl Morey, his boy, he's gonna let him walk. You're gonna let him walk his fat on to Houston.
Same thing in Memphis. Dylan Brooks, they'll pack his bags for him.
Come on, man. Hey, Jalen Harden the whole time went and got a BBL. People don't even really notice that. This nigga walk around with a BBL.
Hey, yo, for those, when y'all see this, it's Friday, 12:14 a.m. The first round of the NFL draft has happened. We will review that real quick, just so y'all have our thoughts on that first round. Next week, we'll break down the whole draft, the winners, who had the best draft, the best trades, all that great, good stuff, because it's 7 rounds and ain't nobody staying up for all of that. So, first round. I want to start off with this. Was Bijan drafted too high? Top 10, number 8 overall. There's always that discussion of running backs being drafted too high. Was Bijan drafted too high by the Atlanta Falcons?
No, I don't think so. Because I feel like he was one of the top 3 talents in the draft. Like, you don't see running backs like that. Like, I've seen his receiving ability out the backfield, special. He's a 3-down back. He's kind of like Saquon, but would the Giants do that over again? I don't know. Depends on if you can guarantee he'll be healthy every season. Like, this is a great pick if he's healthy for the length of this contract. But it's a weird pick because I feel like the Falcons had so many other needs than
That's what I'm saying.
like a running back. Like, I was thinking, I'm looking at the board. I'm like, okay, if Jalen Carter falls to the Eagles, that'll be their pick. But if the Bears end up taking him, then Bijan is going to be the Eagles' pick because there was great chemistry. He was basically campaigning to be an Eagle the whole draft process, going on interviews saying Jalen Hurts was the quarterback that he would most like to play with. And I don't even think he met with the Falcons. That was the other thing too. I think he only went on 2 visits. The Eagles were one of them. And looking at his reaction, I feel like it was a shock kind of to him, but you gotta kind of recover from that initial shock. But it's weird. I thought quarterback might be a bigger need, but hey, who knows? The Falcons might still have an opportunity to take Hendon Hooker or Levis. Who knows?
Hey, with that too, the thing that was wild with that is just like he wasn't aware of it, but leading up to it, I heard Mel Kiper, Adam Schefter, they were saying as it was leading up to the Falcons that the Falcons have been raving about Bijan, raving. So they were putting out, Bijan talking about, oh, I'd love to play with Jalen Hurts. The Falcons like, I'd love to have Bijan. I'd love to have him. And they took him. I don't think it's too high, but to your point, y'all got way more important needs than Bijan Robinson.
I think Bijan Robinson only made sense for a team that was ready to win right now. Like the Eagles. I think a team like them, they shouldn't have done that. But that's why they're the Falcons. So surprise, they made a bad choice. It's what they do. It's what they do. So I'm not surprised by that. He's going to be great. It's just he's not going to translate to a whole bunch of wins for you long term. Going running back that early seems ridiculous. He was bad when the Giants did it, even though Saquon's been good when he's been healthy. Been really good, been great when he's been healthy. It's bad now. It's not a good move for a team that's not ready to win. The Eagles were in a rare position where they got a top 10 pick and they were a championship team. It made sense for them. It doesn't make sense for a team like the Falcons. Stupid decision. I don't co-sign that at all, but we'll see. It'll be fun highlights. And they're gonna love his black behind in Atlanta. You know that. Atlanta gonna have a good time.
Hey, one of my bigger takeaways of the round 1 so far, and y'all could tell me y'all takeaways. The Eagles, at least the first round, To me, the Eagles won the first round. Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith to that defense that's already like that, bruh. I'm telling you that NFC East, the NFC in general, the Eagles, that front line, and now they got Nolan Smith, that linebacker. They led, I think they were the top 2-3 teams with sacks last season. Adding those boys already to Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox, the veterans that they got, bro. The Eagles looking scary, bro. They looking scary. We already know what Jalen Hurts is, AJ Brown. We know what they doing on there. Now they stocked up that defense, especially part of the issue. They make it to the Super Bowl again, for example. Again, you're gonna have to face Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, Aaron Rodgers, or Josh Allen. You're gonna need some people that can get after the quarterback. And the Eagles, they got that solidified.
Yeah. Great draft. I mean, if you look at it, the last 2 years they've kind of been picking off of Georgia's team, which not a bad team to pick off of. They've won the last 2 national championships. So when you're looking at it, that's a good route to go. Picking from SEC teams, that's where you're going to find most of the NFL talent right now. And they had a kind of a luxury. You got 2 first-round picks, 1 in the top 10, so you can get a little crazy with that one. And coming into this draft, you're talking about Jalen Carter, arguably the best player in the draft. And for him to fall so far because of stuff that happened in this draft process, the, off the field issues, this is a steal. Like, nobody thought at the beginning of this that he would even make it to 10 or 9. So that was great. And then same thing with Nolan Smith. I thought he was an option in the teams for some of these teams that are looking at edge rushers. Like at the combine, he ran like a 4.3 as an edge rusher. Like, that's special. And that was another luxury. Like, you've got Hassan Reddick already, who he is a special talent. He was wrecking stuff last year. But that team was built to win last year. Now they have to build it back up with young pieces, and this is a good start.
I'd rather not talk about the Eagles and how good they are. So
tell me about your Giants pick.
I mean, they did. I think it's a good pick. I think it's a really good pick. I think he's drawing comparisons to Marlon Humphrey. I think they needed a second corner really, 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 really badly. If you watched the Giants last year, it was a liability, the second corner. So they needed that badly. I think that they went ahead and addressed that need. And if Joe Shane and is this front office, they keep saying the draft is where they're going to build a team, and they're staying true to that. They're not doing anything reckless. They're being smart. They got Darren Waller for a steal. Like, that's just the way they're just being smart with the way they're operating. They're not going to rush anything, but in the meantime, they're going to be able to compete. And his athletic profile, like, he's like the 4th most athletic cornerback on the grading scale in the last, I heard 20 years or something ridiculous. I saw that stat a minute ago. So, when you get a guy like that who runs like a 4.3 or 4.35, whatever it was, he's blazing fast. You can't help but be excited about him and how he's going to look in the backfield alongside of Dory Jackson, right? So they got two quality corners now, both kind of same physical build. And I think it's going to allow Wink Martindale to be more creative. And I think that's what you need that. You need guys who can cover if you're going to blitz a whole lot like they did. So I love the pick. I think it's a good pick. I mean, would I love to get a wide receiver? Yeah, but I think there's good wide receivers you can get second round. Tyler Scott. There's a kid from Stanford. I was hearing about Michael Wilson. I heard he's pretty talented. There's guys. So I think, or the kid from Purdue, Charlie Jones, I believe his name is. Like, there's guys. So Tank Dell from Houston. There's guys. So I think the Giants will get their wide receiver next pick. I think the next pick will be a wide receiver. If you drop this clip before tomorrow, I might look good.
I do some overtime tonight. Try to get that clip ready. Hey, or I have to put the timestamp on it when I drop it. Like, this was said on April 28th at 12:22 in the morning.
Imagine it's one of the guys. Imagine when it was one of the guys I named too. Like, exactly. Can you imagine?
Hey,
Alex
You
Scott.
do that, the Giants might have to give you a call, put you in the front office. They might have to do it at this point. Hey, how you feel about Will McDonald to the Jets?
I like it. I mean, looking at all the draft comps and the way they're talking about him, how his bend off the edge is, might be the best in the draft. I think he's talented. I think this year the numbers were a little down, but usually if you're really good, they start double teaming you. So I think that's what it was a product of. But I like the pick. I think he's going to add a different aspect to this defense. And as like you said, especially in this AFC where you got QBs who you can't just allow them to stand back there 5, 6 seconds. You need to put some pressure on them and make them, speed up their process. I think he's going to help us do that. And Robert Saleh, if you look back at his San Francisco teams, he liked to rotate defensive ends and edge rushers to keep everybody healthy, keep everybody fresh, so that for the whole game you're coming at the quarterback with fresh legs. You're not tired by the fourth quarter. You're still, firing off the edge. So I think he's going to add that piece to that. We took Jermaine Johnson last year, so he'll be on one side. We still got Carl Lawson. So we're deep right now at edge rusher. And I don't think you take him at 15 if you don't have special plans for him.
That's a fact. We're going to close out the show with one. This is the first time ever in draft history that 4 wide receivers were taken back to back to back. Which of these wide receivers you think has are in the best situation to make the most impact this season? Quentin Johnston went to the Chargers, Jackson Smith and Njigba went to the Seahawks, Zay Flower went to the Ravens, and Jordan Addison went to the Vikings. Which of these wide receivers is going to have an immediate impact and is in the best situation to actually play well straight from the jump?
Zay Flowers to me. Zay Flowers to me. Oh, so Miles, you agree? Yeah. If you run another situation to other wide receivers, Jackson Smith and Jigma has to compete for touches with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf and whatever tight end is there, Disley or whoever it is. So it's tough. I think it's tough. And they love to run the ball a lot. Seattle runs the ball a lot. So that's another thing. You look at Quentin Johnson, they've got Keenan Allen still. I don't think they cut him. They were talking about cutting him. They didn't do that. And they have Mike Williams, I believe, still there, right? So there's just big dogs already there. They're the guys there. You know what I mean? That's a long-term play for them.
To your point, before you continue, it might be opportunity for them because they stay injured.
Right, and yeah, and that's part of the reason why I said Zay Flowers would be the number one guy, because you can't trust Odell to be healthy the entire season, so he'll probably get touches. You know what I mean? And you're it's a weak receiving core outside of Odell and him, right? So you Bateman, but then it gets really thin. There's no one else. So I think he's got a good chance to really make an impact year one right away for them, right away. We didn't talk about Addison, but Addison has Kirk Cousins throwing him the ball, so there's just questions there no matter what. Good luck. He'll be getting some bounce passes all season. I'm down on that.
You said Kirk Cousins played point guard in the offseason for the Timberwolves.
Kirk Cousins is John Stockton.
Speaking of quarterbacks, so obviously we saw that Bryce Young went number 1, CJ Stroud went number 2. And the question was, who was going to be the next quarterback off the board? Was it Richardson? Was it Levis? Was it possibly Hendon Hooker, which was getting a lot of good reports leading up to the draft the last couple of days? But it was Anthony Richardson to the Indianapolis coach. What's your thoughts on this pick? How soon do you actually see Anthony Richardson? Do we see him this season?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like you don't take a guy top 4 and sit them the whole season. Like, even if I don't know if they have a QB in place to start right now, honestly, I would try to get him in there as soon as possible. And what? You think you should let him sit? I think, yeah,
Sit your
that's a
ass.
it's a good idea too. But I think you got to
They'll
learn on
be
the fly.
good.
Yeah, you got to learn on the fly, and I
Okay.
think the best practice is in the game. Like you're gonna learn, you're gonna see it up close what you have to do. You watch film with one of the better QB coaches that they have. So I think the Colts, they've been looking for the replacement for Andrew Luck for so long that their fans are going to be so anxious to see him get out there as soon as possible. And I think he'll have his lumps. He'll have games where he struggles. He might throw 3 picks, but I think he'll keep learning from that as the season goes on. Like I see it as Trey Lance kind of benefited from having Jimmy G there if, you know, he was able to play that next season if he didn't get hurt. I think he was going to have a good year. But I don't know if there's any quarterbacks out there that they can pick up to start ahead of him that would be beneficial for him to learn from. So I say put him out there. Let him learn. Let him, you know, learn on the fly. Like he's raw. He only started 1 year at Florida. I thought he was going to come back for another year, but like seeing this draft class of quarterbacks, this was the best time to leave, and I think he's the most talented quarterback in the draft.
To your
Yeah.
point, though, I think I agree with Greg. It would be nice to have him sit, but these are the quarterbacks that he's going to compete with to have a starting job. Ellinger, Nick Foles, and Gardner Minshew. So I think by default, because of how talented he is, he's probably going to beat them out. So to your point, he's going to have to learn on the fly. It'd have been great. I think it would have been beautiful if he was drafted like a team like the Panthers. That would have been beautiful and ideal. They have basically an incubator for a young quarterback. It would have been absolutely beautiful. But he's on the Colts. And to your point, they ain't even had nothing to be excited about since Andrew Luck at the quarterback position. They've tried everything. They had Phillip Rivers. They decided to bring out Greg's great great grandfather one season. They've been trying any and everything. At most, he's going to put the people in the seats. People are going to want to come see him. He's going to be one of the most exciting players in the NFL from day one. And he might be the best running quarterback from day one. So it's a win-win in a lot of ways. Even if he doesn't have the MVP type of season, he doesn't start off like Lamar's first year that he played, or he has some lumps, more interceptions and touchdowns. So be it. Y'all gonna sell out. It's Anthony Richardson. It's gonna be exciting.
And they might run his black behind out of Indianapolis too if he doesn't do too well right away. It's Indianapolis, so just be prepared for that. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. But he's talented. He deserves to be above Will Levis and Hendon Hooker and them boys, obviously. So the Will Levis fall is interesting. We'll see how it happens tomorrow night with him. That him falling so far I mean, I'm a little surprised by it, I guess. I didn't think he was that good. After just kind of hearing more about him, people I trust, people I go to for these things told me that he wasn't that good. So that's really where I'm going off of. I don't got time to watch all this film. Nah, man. But that's the reason why I love the Giants pick. Is the reason why people I trust would love Deontay Banks. So, but they don't like Will Levis. So we'll see where he lands. That should be interesting. And then what he does when he lands somewhere. I thought Tampa Bay might take him, and they passed up on him. I don't know. I don't think it's the Mayo thing. I think he's got a real football deficiency people are scared of, obviously, or maybe it's a personality thing. Sometimes it's a personality thing with these quarterbacks. I don't know, but it should be interesting.
Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask, and they said we good.
Yeah, that's bad.
Not even to take them like maybe you could compete. We could have you as a backup possibly. Those are your two quarterbacks right now.
They're trying to tank for Caleb Williams. It's like an obvious tank for Caleb Williams. The tank is on. The tank is on, and rightfully so. He's the best quarterback. He's better than like half the league right now already. So whoever gets him, they're up. The Rams look they're gonna tank too. It's the same thing.
Todd Bowles is the right guy to do that. The right coach to have.
They're gonna tank on purpose and fire him. Damn. Yeah.
Get one more check, Todd. Get one more check and go back to being a coordinator. Because you as a head coach, you don't be looking too hot, bro. You better as a coordinator. That might just be a little bit too much on your plate. And it's fine. It's fine. We don't want to have a black man out of a job as a head coach. But I'm sorry, the black delegation do not want you as a head coach. That's just what it is. We don't want you representing us because you're not really good at being a head coach. That's how it is. But if you stay ready, you don't got to get ready. Bitch Mob ENT. We out. Peace. Subscribe, share, like on all streaming platforms and YouTube. You already know how it is.